Hi everyone, Kate Floss here again. I'm here to talk to you about the Treaty Principles Bill. Now, everybody seems to think that this is to do with only New Zealanders, but I'm here to tell you that this includes the constitutional documents of the United Kingdom, which includes England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, and it includes parts of Australia, not all of Australia. So when they say that this Treaty Principles Bill is all about only New Zealanders, they are leading you up the garden path. Now, what they're trying to do is to remove us from our constitutional Westminster law that we all were given, was put on the ships and sent with us. That was promised to us depending on when your ship was sent to these various countries, then that was sent with you on that ship. So those ships started coming into the Pacific, Australia, and New Zealand in around about the 1500s. They first started coming in, but when they decided that they were going to send out the Great Fleet, they first of all set up a 1688 Bill of Rights, which gave us our rights to property, right to free speech, and right to call MPs, parliamentarians, and even including the King, into the court when they violated our rights, our Protestant rights, under Almighty God. Now, this Treaty Principles Bill is an attempt to get all of that taken away from us. Now, if you go and actually look at the treaty, now I've got other evidence, but I'm not doing the treaty today, but I'm going to go through the sections of the Treaty Principles Bill and why it's, I'm not going to tell you if it's good or bad, but I'm just going to say that these are the facts before your eyes. Now, I'll show you that in this treaty, it will tell you that it is for Her Majesty's subjects that have already settled in New Zealand, and the rapid extension of immigration both from Europe and Australia. So that right there is telling you who does it include in this treaty. Her Majesty's subjects are included. That includes all people coming out from the United Kingdom. It includes Europeans that are emigrating. That came from Germany and France, and those people were native peoples. And those people were never going to be allowed to return. So they annexed on these rights that were supposed to be given to us for all times to come. And they're trying to get us, white people from those countries, to vote their way out of this agreement, and including Australia. Now, I'm not going to go into all of that today, but I'm just going to be doing this here. But that's just to let you know that, no, in regards with this treaty, there are immigrants of Europe, there are immigrants of the United Kingdom, and there are immigrants to Australia that were all native people stolen from their lands and put on those ships. Now, it goes, I'm going to try my best to make a series of 3 videos. Let me check the time here, 12:54, so I want this to be about 15 minutes. I'm going to make a series of 3 videos, and I'm going to go through each principle that they want to instill into you. But before we go into that, what I want to show you is that these principles are not, they did not just come up with these principles as they're trying to lead you to believe that they came up with these principles just yesterday, and that it was put in by a court judge a few years ago, and that all those principles in law were illegal. But here, I'm here to show you that you will see here that you will actually see here that these principles were created in 1987 before the 1990 Bill of Rights and the human rights were brought onto the shores of New Zealand. In 1987, they decided the treaty principle guidelines. And then when a Supreme Court judge said that the principles of the treaty were a partnership or some other kind of thing like that, they started to place these principles into legislation, and all of you were completely unaware as to what those principles were, only that there were treaty principles. Well, here was the guideline that they decided way back in 1987. That was done on the 4th of July, which is Guy Fawkes Day, by the way. The government drew up 5 principles by which the Crown would act when dealing with issues arising from the Treaty of Waitangi, and here they are. The government has the right to govern and to make laws. Iwi tribes have the right to organise an iwi and under the law to control the resources that they own. All New Zealanders are equal under the law. The government and the iwi are obliged to accord each other reasonable cooperation on major issues of common concern, and the government is responsible for providing effective processes for the resolution of grievances in the expectation that the reconciliation can occur. Now, Prime Minister David Lane said the principles will guide the government on making decisions regarding treaty issues, such as those recommendations made by the Waitangi Tribunal. He said the principles were not an attempt, as they're trying to say now, are not an attempt to rewrite the treaty, but were consistent with all, as well as with observations made by the courts. Now, this was done in 1986. So that was just I had pre-recorded that piece because I messed it all up. So that's a little pre-recorded piece, and now I'll get back to Kate Floss live. So what I wanted to look at the first principle that they have. So that's what that was basically telling you just then, is that these principles were not just decided in the last few years. They were not just decided by the Supreme Court judge. These principles were actually decided as a guideline way back in 1987. And I'll tell you another thing, that before we get to the principle 1, which is the executive government has full power to govern and the Parliament of New Zealand has full power to make laws. So I'll talk about this in a minute. In the best interests of everyone, in accordance with the rule of law and the maintenance of a free and democratic society. Well, we're a common law society, and we have retained our common law society. America threw England out, and they became a democratic society. We come under the common law, which gives us the right to call MPs into the Parliament, into the courts and hold them to account. Now, to my understanding, over in America, they're not allowed to do that, but we're allowed to do it in New Zealand. We want to hang on to that dearly. Now, look here. This one here was the Maori history. Now, this actually came up in around about 1990 or 1993. Now, this was done on the 27th of July, and tribal leaders this has occurred in Australia, this has occurred in Scotland with the tribal leaders, this has occurred over on the Pacific Islands with their tribal leaders, this has occurred over in England with their native English people. So this is across the board. It's not only occurred within New Zealand. The tribal leaders from throughout New Zealand voted to establish a National Maori Congress. The historic decision came a year after the idea was mooted at an inaugural hui gathering. More than 1,000 people representing 50 iwis, that is 50 tribes, Maori tribes, unanimously supported the establishment of the national body by Sir Hepi Te Huhu, who called the first hui, was appointed a Congress president. Now, this smells of the United States, that should the iwi be iwi-based, tribally based and funded. That's funded by the taxpayers. And it was agreed that the Congress should work to advance and strengthen Maori people with a focus on the Tino Rangatiri Tanka. Tino Rangatiri Tanka. And this tribal thing was set up in all of those countries in 1987, 1990. Now, the first principle says that the executive government has full power to govern. Now, I'm here to tell you that there was just recently a bill that it's still being passed through the select committee, but unfortunately they sneaked it through on the day that the Treaty Principle Bill first reading was being done over in Parliament. There was, and they did all the big drama and the haka and all these things. They sneaked through a Parliament bill that gave them and their families huge increases in salaries. But not only that, it decided that they were going to separate the executive government from the Parliament. And so basically, presently, we are able to call with our 1688 Bill of Rights 1688, we are able to summon the executive government into the courts and hold them to the account. But there is presently a Parliament bill removing that right from us. Now, I'm already in there. I've got a few of my team members are in there, but fighting against it. The other one here, so there's two separate, now they've separated the two, and they've said, and the Parliament of New Zealand has the full power to make laws. Now, we want to be very careful about this because it says that the executive has the full power to govern. Ask yourself the question, who is the executive? I'm here to tell you, I think it's a Maori government that is working in the executive. The Parliament will make the laws and pass the legislation that the executive orders them to make. So we've got to be very careful of this principle one. And here's why. Let's have a listen to what this man here has got to say. I forget his name, but never mind. Let's have a listen.
Inquiry reflects the ongoing pursuit of justice and equity for Māori under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. It invites us to consider fundamental constitutional reforms, placing tikanga Māori at the heart of governance structures. Through Tomokia Ngā Tatau o Matangirea, we urge the tribunal to consider the role of hapu as a primary unit of Māori self-determination, ensuring their centrality in decision-making. Tikanga as the cornerstone of constitutional reform, shaping a model that reflects the relational, spiritual and collective dimensions of Māori law, and mana Māori motuhake as the guiding principle for designing governance structures that honour Māori sovereignty.
So that is I'll post that up in the links for you, but that is basically telling you if you give the tick of approval, or if you don't go and give the tick against this treaty principles, you are basically allowing them to, because it says here, the executive government of New Zealand has full power to govern, and the Parliament of New Zealand has full power to make laws in the best interests of everyone in accordance with the rule of law and maintenance of a free and democratic society. So you don't actually, he's not telling you which style of government. Are you going to be an American style of government where you have a president and where individuals are not permitted to call their ministers or their president into a court of law. You have to be a legal person to do that. Are we going to have a Maori government that is dictating from the almost to be passed Parliament bill where the executive will be separated from the Parliament and they will make their orders of what they want to happen and Parliament will pass the laws for them? Or will we be under our Bill of Rights 1688 and the protections of Westminster? Now, I'm just going to explain to you that, in fact, they are trying to make you to believe that this Treaty of Waitangi is between the Maori and the Crown. But I want to tell you that before the Crown, we actually had, now this here is called, hope I can work this. This here is called the BILL, and and this is called the Provisional Government of British Settlements in the Islands of New Zealand. Now, if you go and look at the treaty, just over here, it will say here for Her Majesty's subjects who have already settled and the rapid extension. Now, these immigrants of Europe and these Australians here are yet to arrive. They have not arrived, but these were Her Majesty's subjects who had settled in New Zealand. Now, you might think to yourself, oh, that is the British people that have came to put their themselves onto the land of New Zealand, but no, these were people that, according to this bill, would settle to become British subjects and cede their own sovereignty that they held with the native chiefs of New Zealand. Now, I'm going to show to you, I'm going to post this up in the links so you'll be able to go and find it yourself. And if you go to section 18, it will clearly says to you that and to be it enacted that it shall be lawful for the commissioners, and they are hereby required from time to time to appoint and at the pleasure to remove, subject to Her Majesty's approbation, every such appointment. I'm not going to read all of that. It says that persons claiming through or under them to any lands or hereditaments in the said islands or any part thereof which shall be claimed by virtues of any titles alleged to be acquired from or through or under any person or persons of the native race in New Zealand, in the said islands. The said Commissioner for Native Titles shall determine on all claims whether, where have I got here? Oh, this is the first section. So this section here is telling you this was for all the people that were not British subjects, that if they agreed to a cessation, that they would have the right to go into the court and challenge their rightful titles to lands that they had already previously agreed to with the chiefs. And then it says here, and be it enacted that it shall and may be lawful for all persons who at the time of the proclamation of this act, as aforesaid, and shall hold or be entitled to any lands or hereditaments in the said islands which shall have been bona fide purchased or obtained from the inhabitants of the native race before the time of the said proclamation, to cede and dispose of the same to Her Majesty or to the said commissioners for the purposes of this Act. So what does this mean? What this means is that we people that were not British subjects, mostly German and French, or children born to British subjects which did not hold their British subject status because they were born outside of the lands of England or outside of the lands of the UK. Those people ceded their lands to the Crown at a future date, if the chiefs agreed to it, to enter their lands into a land court to be decided on whether those land agreements were valid or not. But we did not only cede our lands, it was based on the principle and the promise that we all would be given British subject status. Now, that British subject status is a whole argument that needs to be had later, but I'm just saying to you that this Principles Act is an attempt for them to get themselves out of the agreement to give us British subject status, when we, Anglo-Saxon people, whether we be German immigrant Europei, whether we be Australian who also were brought in by the immigrant Europei, or whether we were people of stateless status that were white, born to Australia or New Zealand, they would like to get us out of our Bill of Rights 1688, which gives us the right to govern ourselves. It gives us the right to call all entities, whether they be Maori, whether they be Maori Trust, whether they be the Waitangi Tribunal, whether they be the MPs in Parliament, whether they be the Executive Council. We all have that gift and privilege under the Treaty of Waitangi, but it's not the Treaty of Waitangi that gave us that gift. It was the 1838 cessation that occurred by us, because it's what it says here. If you go on to read, it says that, or to be subject to laws under the sovereign right, that no lands which shall be so ceded as last aforesaid shall be deemed or taken to be part of any British settlements. So they had to be lands that were held by people that were not British. So that was the immigrant Europeans, or to be subject to the laws or government thereof. So these were people that were subjected to the laws of the native chiefs, and these were native people of Europe who were not subjected to the laws of England. And these people basically came out of the 4 Hanseatic states of Germany and then this was not going to occur until the sovereign rights of the native chiefs or inhabitants over such lands shall have been formally ceded by treaty in the manner directed by this Act. I'm not going to get into the arguments. So following that cessation of us came the treaty. Now, I'm not going to argue about who ceded what I'm only just going to say that if the New Zealand natives did not cede the right to govern over us, their kawanatanga over us, if they did not cede, then we'd go back to our original rights and hereditaments that we held with the native chiefs in 1838 before we ceded, because our cessation is only valid upon their cessation to govern over us. Now, it's all of this that this Treaty Principle 1 is trying to get out of it. You really need to study a lot, and you have to have your wits about you to understand this. Now, I will show you how to get into the select. So that is Principle 1. And how do we get into the Select Committee? You just Google in Parliament Bill New Zealand, okay? And then you can go to Bills in New Zealand Parliament. And when you go to the Bills in New Zealand Parliament, you've got to be careful. You don't want to go to proposed members' bills. You want to go to bills, which means proposed laws. And if you scroll down, they've really buried this away so you can't find it because there's only the days are ticking. If you have to go to page 3, and you will see Principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. It's at the Select Committee, all right? Now, you can do this yourself. I'm saying you don't need to go through anybody else's documents. You can go and do it yourself. Be your own God. Be your own counsel. Be your own advocate of your own family and your own documents that you hereditaments documents that you have, because we are all not the same. I am here to tell you. Now, there's 22 days left, and you can just click on here to make a submission, and you can do it all by your little old selves, and you don't need to put the power of yourself into the hands of any Facebook group that is encouraging you to whatever they're doing with you. They've offered you to put in one sentence. If you go now, I'm going to show to you, they have offered you over here, if you scroll it up, they will have offered you a submission builder, and they have offered you the ability to click on one of these, and then you're allowed to put, you click on one of these as a standard thing that you don't have to do anything, and then they've allowed you to put 1 or 2 sentences of your own thoughts. You can do that, or you can get in there and be a real man, be a real woman, be a real man, and fight your own fight, and don't pass it off. If you pass it off to other people to fight your battles for you, then you're not in your godly realm. You're not in your heavenly realm. You're saying, okay, Jenny can do it. Let Jenny do it. Let my lawyer do it. Let my Facebook group do it. Let my tribal leader do it. Let the iwi do it. Let the hapu. You should go in there in your own heavenly realm and do it for yourself. Now, I'm not going to be talking about that too much, but I'll go back a bit here and to the original page, and then you can go down here. So there's page 3. Now, that's the Treaty Principles, but I just want to encourage you to click over onto page 5, and if you scroll down to page 5, you will see this Parliament Bill. Parliament Bill. That's at Select Committee. Now, you cannot go in there. It's already closed. But Kate Floss has already been in there and put up a bit of a battle. There is the Parliament Bill. And if you go to the Parliament Bill, you can go down here, and so there's the Parliament Bill. It's already passed in Select Committee. So you see, there's no option to make a submission because that is done, gone. So your next place to grab your heavenly power is in the Treaty Principles Bill. Now, if you go down to submissions and advice, you'll see here at the top here, Brent Akanash. Now, you don't need to, you don't really need to read all of the complaints. We have brought in our 1688 Bill of Rights extensively here, and that's quite a lot of reading. If you're very clever, I can advise you to read it, but if you're not so clever, you'll just read here the subjects' liberties to be allowed, which gives us the right to call them into Parliament. And it's got various other things in there, but I'd ask you, this is what you can do when you go in and do it yourself. And so we have put in on here, our section 35, which page 18, and this talks about the cessation of the people that were not British subjects and the cessation of their lands and the agreement that our lands would be protected under the Bill of Rights 1688, which is the forfeiture of person without conviction, and that we only agreed to this cessation if we were to retain our Protestant right under the Bill of Rights 1688. So we did that, and then we brought in this man here. A lot of you won't know him. His name is called Wirimu Ratana, and he is the person that in 1932, before the war of 1944, but after the World War I of 1914, he petitioned the Parliament of England. And now I've put in the entire petition here, and you'll be able to go and read it all for yourself. But these are the things that you're able to put in at the select committee to get yourself recognised. And I'll only say the little bit here. He talked about rights and privileges, the rights and privileges, not rights and duties. And he said that the Treaty of Waitangi is operative. And also that he said here, it's very important that you read this page. He put it on the last page, and he said here that he said, your petitioner therefore prays that the Treaty of Waitangi be embodied in the statute book, which is what they're doing now, of the Dominion of New Zealand and of the Dominions of the British Commonwealth and of the British government, respectively, in order that all may know that the Treaty of Waitangi is operative, also to preserve the ties of brotherhood between Pākehā and Maori for all times to come. And so you can go and read Ratana's document there. If you're savvy, you can read the entire submission, and there's another also submission in there. You can also go and read. It always goes back to you. You can also go and read Geoffrey Palmer. Now, you can go and read Catherine Sixtus here, and in this particular document here, that's me. I have written my own whakaputinga, my own declaration for my own family. You're all welcome to read, and I have made sure that I've protected myself. And you might want to scroll down and read these German documents here. There's 13 articles, and this is where the Hague ordered the New Zealand government to return all lands back to the native Germans who owned those lands. And where did those lands came from? It was all those lands that were stolen from them after they ceded in 1838. Okay, so they ceded in 1838. Well, the Hague ordered all those lands to be given back. So I want you to be very, very careful. You need to, I'm going to be finishing up here, but that's the end of Treaty Principle 1. I'm just saying to you that if this bill passes, it really doesn't matter if the bill passes or not, because even if the bill passes, if you know your history and you know your rightful hereditaments that your family's held between I would say 1828 through to 1845, if you know your family's rightful hereditaments of there, which included Australia, it included Scotland, and included Northern Ireland, and it included England, includes Europe, some parts of Europe, not all, but parts of Europe, Germany particularly, France particularly. If you know your history, this is the time when you can go in there, put in your own declaration, put up your own documents that are relevant to your family, right? This is the time where you get to go to God. You get to go to the heavenly realm and say what you want to say. And whether the bill passes, if the bill passes, if you were opposed to that bill, then you can go back to a court of law at any time and present your documents to the court of law, especially if you have put in the Treaty of Waitangi in its original form, English form, not the Maori form, English form, and if you've put in your Bill of Rights 1688. You have an automatic right of appeal to the Supreme Court of New Zealand, and I believe also to the Supreme Court or the Privy Council over in England. Now, I may be wrong. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm going to end my video. It was supposed to be, so it's about an hour, but hang in there. You're going to have to really study. You're going to have to study. There's 22 days left, and you ought to study like you've never studied before. So I'll leave you with this. We will remove this one, right? Get rid of that, and then just go to Parliament Bills, Parliament Bills, and then you see, you just put in there Parliament Bill, forget about them, don't let them do it for you, get them out. You need a computer. I'm sorry. You need a computer. Get rid of them, and then you can go to your Parliament Bill, and you can be your own godly person. And then you go to proposed laws there, and then you just scroll down, go to section 3, pop into the Treaty Principles Bill. Now, I'm sure that they want to avoid people going in here because they're trying to keep the numbers down, but that's too bad. This is such a significant, we all get to have a say. Go to your, you can go to your, make a submission here. You just click on it, and you can read the information. There's a lot of information. Read the information, and then you can go to submissions accepted until 7th of January 2025. 7th of January 2025. Do not let anybody be your voice. Be your own voice. Make your own news. Be your own glory. Nobody can do this for you. The penis is up for this, right? The penis is up. That means that you're in the ball bag. You're a god in your own right. So when the penis is down, that means the penis is impotent. But the penis is up. So since it's up, that means you can go in there. Now, you've got 22 days. You can go and read your bills here if you want. And you can read how to make a submission. And after you read the information, you can go to click, click, click. I am ready to make a submission. Like that. You just go clickety click. And then it'll tell you it's all there. You can do as an individual. You can do as an organisation. And then you can put in, do you wish to make an oral submission? Now, oral submissions are very important. If you want to make an oral submission, you can click on yes. This one you can put in a written. We usually do both, but some people don't want to be in the public. But if you want to be really famous, like Kate Floss and some other people, I can't mention them because their lives is too dangerous for them. But anyway, there are some people. Will actually give a special thanks. Actually, I want to give a special thanks to my friend M. Now, M knows who M is, and M, I will just say, I do want to just say that when we did the okay, I better give a big thanks to M because I've not recognised M. But I will just say, going to 5, which is here, this Parliament bill, I would just wanted to say to you that this particular one here, where we got Ratana, I would just say to you, I just wanted to give a special thanks to my really great friend Em, who it's been extremely difficult for both of us because we're on different family lines, and we are in essence, or not really against each other, but our family lines are not on the same team. So it's been very difficult for us. And bless her beautiful, beautiful heart, Em sat up all night, well into the night, must have been about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, to help me get this written for Brent. We sent it on to Brent. We got it in at the last. He woke up in the morning. It was there. It was put in the final hour of midnight to him. And it was thanks to Em's wonderful advice. The application most likely would never have been accepted had I had not listened to all of her amazing advice. And so it was thanks to her that this even got to see the eyes of the public. So we want to give a great big thank you to Em for putting this forward, and just having the patience to she very gently guided me when I was arrogant and rude, and just Kate Floss, and she was patient and just continued to point out to me areas where I may have been I risked losing the submission, and thank God that I listened to her. So that's what we've got to do. We've got to listen to everybody. So anyway, just once again, a great big thank you to Em for all of your wonderful work and your patience, and I'm ever so grateful. That's Kate Floss signing out, and I hope this has come up. Kate Floss signing out, and also a big thank you to all of our team on the back here. They're all up here. Te Whero, we've got Queen Victoria, we've got Tamti Wakanene, we've got King Te Whero, we've got Ratana, we've got the Prince of Wales, who abdicated, we've got Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, we've got Jesus, we've got my father, John Leslie Sixtus, we've got Manfred von Richthofen, which we'll be telling you about him later, who fought hard to give you this Bill of Rights, 1688. And we've got also, I better not mention a name, but you can see the famous ones up there if you know who the famous ones are, but I don't like to mention. These are mostly pictures of people who, all of these people have passed away, but some of them have not. We cannot mention the names of those that have not passed away, but just a big thank you to all of them that are watching. You can believe you me, they are watching, and they're with all of us at this time. And us New Zealand Maori and us New Zealand Pākehā, not the Pākehā, Pākehā, have got a very important job to do here, and we've only got 22 days to do it. So fight on. So that's Treaty Principle 1 that they're wishing to change, okay? Right, see you later. Look my best.